The call came at 3:12 a.m. Detective Fallon didn't bother with pleasantries. "You need to see this," he said. "2 a.m. security cam. Your house." No further details. 30 minutes later, I was watching my own home, split-screened across 4 angles, at the downtown precinct. Shadows. Lights. Movement. But not human. Glowing orbs danced near the upstairs windows. A shimmering pulse swept across the roofline. Then, exactly 2:03 a.m., the image shuddered like static underwater. The footage skipped, glitched, then stabilized. A shape stood at my front door. Human-sized. Just outside the porch light. Unmoving. Detective Fallon's finger hovered above the frame. We ran this through enhancement software. The porch light sensor never triggered. No footprints. No heat signature. "You sure your system's not compromised?" I wasn't sure of anything. "I'm going home," I said, already backing out the door. He tried to protest, but I was gone before he finished the sentence. My phone buzzed, 5 missed calls. My wife, Naomi. One from her brother, Derek. One from my mother, who hadn't stayed at our house in months. I broke every speed limit getting back to the property in Ridge Hollow. The night air felt thicker the closer I got. Trees lining the winding road seemed to lean inward, like they were listening. When I pulled into the driveway, Derek was already there. He stood on the porch, arms crossed tightly over his chest, eyes bloodshot and darting. "You weren't supposed to come back tonight," he said. His voice was low, but shaking. "Why?" He didn't answer. Just turned toward the door. "They're still here." Naomi's voice burst from inside. High-pitched. Desperate. I rushed forward. My mother's sobs echoed faintly through the walls. Something was wrong. The air around the door crackled with energy. I didn't hesitate. One kick. The door flew inward. And there, in the center of our living room, under the exposed beams I'd sanded myself, beside the couch Naomi had begged me to reupholster, across from the fireplace where we'd toasted our anniversary just a week ago, was something that broke my understanding of reality. A figure stood, human in outline, but not in essence. Limbs just slightly too long. Skin shimmering like oil on water. And its eyes, God, those eyes, they weren't eyes at all, but voids. Places where light should reflect, but didn't. It turned to me and smiled. I didn't scream. I didn't run. I stood in the doorway, frozen, breath caught halfway to my lungs, staring at the thing that wore a smile not made for humans. Its face rippled, like a heat mirage caught in slow motion. The figure didn't move forward, didn't speak, just watched me. And for a second, I felt something cold and ancient scrape against my mind. Then the lights blew. Not flickered, exploded. A white-hot burst from every bulb and lamp in the room. My mother shrieked from the kitchen. Derek slammed the door shut behind me. "Don't look at it too long," he barked, tackling me to the floor. Naomi ran into the room, wild-eyed, her hair sticking to her face like she'd been underwater. She grabbed my arm with white knuckles. "You weren't supposed to see this. We were going to fix it first." "Fix what?" I shouted. "What the hell is that thing?" Derek pushed the sofa against the broken door frame, as if furniture could hold back what we just witnessed. "It's not what you think." That's when I realized it was gone. The thing had vanished, no sound, no light, no indication it had ever been there. But the house remembered. The temperature hadn't gone back to normal. The air still felt ionized. "Off." "Someone tell me what's going on," I said, heart hammering. "Now." Derek turned, hesitating. And Naomi said the words that cracked everything I believed. "It's not the first time it's come." Silence. "You knew about this?" My voice rose with every syllable. Naomi looked like a woman unraveling. I didn't want to believe it. At first, it was just lights. Then things moved. Sounds at night. I thought I was going crazy. I told Derek because I couldn't tell you. "Why the hell not?" "Because I thought it had something to do with you," she whispered. "Your father." "Your line." I stared at her. "My father died when I was 9. Car crash. No mystery. No whispers. No alien hauntings in the attic. Just twisted metal and a closed casket funeral." "What are you talking about?" Derek threw something on the floor in front of me, a folder. Thick. Dusty. Government sealed. "I found this in Mom's attic," he said. "Last month." "You broke into my mother's attic?" I was looking for answers. Naomi told me what she saw. So I dug. That's when I found him. I knelt, shaking, opening the folder. It was filled with military documents. Photos. Maps. And the same name at the top of every report. Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Cross. My father. Except, my father wasn't a lieutenant colonel. He was a mid-level engineer at an oil refinery, or so I'd been told. This file said otherwise. According to the papers, my father led something called Operation Echogate, a black ops unit buried in DARPA contracts, dealing with non-human interactions and containment of recovered entities. Entities, like the one that had just stood in my living room. I felt the world tilt. My whole life, every conversation, every bedtime story, every missing puzzle piece, suddenly cast in a different light. I thought this was a haunting, Naomi said softly. But it's not a ghost, is it? No, I said, hearing my own voice like it belonged to someone else. It's not. I looked down at the document beneath my hand. A surveillance photo, dated 1986. A house. My childhood home. Standing near the front porch was the same shape I'd seen tonight. The lights. The shadow. The smile. 37 years ago. And still here. By 4:15 a.m., I no longer recognized my life. I sat at the kitchen table with the classified file spread before me. My mother, still trembling, clutched a rosary she hadn't held in years. Derek paced the hallway like a man guarding against ghosts. Naomi hovered at the kitchen doorway, watching me like I might shatter. In the center of the table was my father's face. A black and white photo, grainy, official. His eyes looked younger, more alert. But it was him, Daniel Cross. Except that wasn't the name I'd grown up saying. I'd been raised under Mitchell, my mother's maiden name. She'd changed it, claimed it was for a fresh start after Dad died. Now I understood. She hadn't been starting over. She'd been hiding. You knew, I said without looking at her. Tears welled in her eyes, but I didn't care. You told me he worked in a refinery. That he was boring, normal, dependable. That the accident was just that, an accident. It was easier, she whispered. Safer. For who? She didn't answer. The file told a different story. My father had led Echogate, a task force stationed in Nevada, assigned to monitor and interact with what the documents called Phenomenon Entities Class 7+. There were field reports, coded language, redacted paragraphs. But the gist was clear. They'd found something, and they'd brought it back. What it was, whether alien, extra-dimensional, or something worse, wasn't clear. But my father hadn't just encountered these entities. He'd invited them. Naomi read over my shoulder. Why would they come back now? They didn't, I said. They never left. The lights in the hallway flickered again. Subtle, but enough to make us all pause. Derek returned from the front door, pale. The porch cameras fried. Every sensor in the house is out. I nodded slowly. They're disabling surveillance. That means they're watching us. My mind ran hot with questions. Why now? Why here? What did they want? Was this about my father? Me? And then I saw it. A letter paper-clipped inside the file. Handwritten. Not typed. To my son. If you're reading this, then they've returned. And if that's true, it means I failed to contain them. You'll feel afraid. That's natural. But remember, they feed on chaos. Fear is currency. Confusion is camouflage. They are not gods. They are not spirits. They are watchers, and they lie. I made a mistake trying to bind one to our home. I thought I could control it. Thought I could learn. I was wrong. Burn the circle. Do not let them finish the resonance. There are others who know. Find Agent Lorne. He's off-grid now. Montana. Tell him the gate is active. And trust no one who smiles without blinking. Your father. D. C. I read the note 3 times. Burn the circle, I muttered. What circle? Mom raised her hand slowly, pointing to the guest room. Your father built something under the floorboards, she whispered. I never asked what it was, but it glowed. A sound came from the hallway. A soft creak, like pressure shifting from one floorboard to the next. We all turned. The guest room door, closed moments ago, was now ajar. Stay here, I said. But Naomi followed anyway. We stepped carefully down the hall, each breath like inhaling static. I pushed the door open slowly. The floorboards were scorched into a perfect ring, and inside the circle, levitating 6 inches above the wood, was a small metal cube. Not glowing. Humming. Naomi stepped back. Is that it? No, I said, heart racing. That's the beacon. It was the size of a shoebox. Matte black. No seams, no screws, no markings, except for a single indented triangle on one face, pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. The cube floated inside the scorched ring as if gravity didn't apply. Naomi pressed closer to me, whispering, It's alive, isn't it? I didn't answer. I didn't know. But something in me, some deep, ancestral instinct, was screaming that this object wasn't just waiting. It was listening. My eyes traced the charred pattern surrounding the cube. A perfect ring of ash etched into the wooden floor, formed with a precision no human hand could manage. Symbols repeated in symmetrical patterns. Lines too straight. Curves too smooth. It's a containment seal, I said, remembering my father's letter. The circle keeps it from finishing something. The resonance. Naomi glanced at the triangle. And if it finishes? I don't want to find out. I took a cautious step toward it, half expecting the cube to react, to move, to speak. But it didn't. It just hovered there, humming, pulsing, waiting. From behind us, Derek's voice. Then why not destroy it? I turned. You think I haven't considered that? He stepped into the room, holding my father's letter. He said, burn the circle, not the cube. He wanted the seal broken. No, I said. He wanted the resonance stopped. The seal prevents it. But what if it's a prison? What if keeping it sealed is what's keeping them here? Naomi shook her head. Or it's the only thing keeping them from getting out. Another flicker. The lights dimmed and surged again. The cube responded. The humming intensified. Naomi stumbled back. It felt like it moved. I watched it. The cube hadn't shifted position, but something about it, its orientation had changed. The indented triangle now faced me. It knew. Somehow, it knew I was here. What do you want? I whispered. The humming stopped. Silence. And then, click. The triangle retracted, revealing an opening. Inside, not light, not shadow, but something in between. A void. And from that void, a voice. Not spoken, not heard. Felt. Daniel Cross. You built the gate. I backed away. No, I'm not him. You carry the blood. That is enough. Naomi grabbed my hand. Tell it to stop. Close it. But I couldn't. Because it was already speaking again. The others are near. You feel them. Behind the walls. Inside the wires. They want the gate open. Let them finish what was begun. A memory sparked, my father's funeral. The strange men in black suits who never spoke. One of them had looked at me like he knew. All of this had been waiting for me since I was a child. They've been using my house, I whispered. My family, as an anchor. Derek stepped forward. Then we end it now. He raised a crowbar. Don't. I shouted. But he swung. The crowbar struck the cube. And shattered in half. No sound. No recoil. Just a burst of heatless force that sent Derek flying across the room. He slammed into the far wall, unconscious. Naomi screamed. The cube rotated slowly in place. The triangle sealed itself again. Then, from outside the house, a sound like thunder, but not in the sky, beneath the ground. Mom ran to the guest room door. They're coming again, she cried. I can hear them, under the floor. I grabbed Naomi and pulled her back. We can't stop them here. We have to find Lorne, the man in the letter. He's the only one who might know how to close this. But what about Derek? We'll come back, once we know what we're dealing with. I wrapped the cube in a fire blanket, sealed it in a toolbox, and locked it. The second it left the circle, the house shuddered, as if breathing out after decades of holding its breath. The lights died again. But this time, they didn't return. We ran. Down the stairs. Out the door. Into the freezing night. As we pulled out of the driveway, I looked back once and saw a figure standing in the upstairs window. Too tall. Too still. Too familiar. Watching. We drove north for hours, guided by a name scrawled in a decades-old letter and a hunch that a man once loyal to my father might still be alive and willing to help. Agent Lorne. No first name. Just an address Naomi found in a search that bordered on illegal, a remote property in Montana, deep in the Bitterroot Mountains. The place hadn't been active in public records for over 15 years. Perfect place to vanish. The cube, still locked inside my father's old toolbox, sat in the back seat like a sleeping animal. It hadn't made a sound, hadn't shifted once since I removed it from the circle. But the silence felt loaded, as if it were listening, waiting. Naomi sat beside me, wrapped in an old army jacket, staring out the window with a blank expression. I couldn't tell if she was angry, scared, or somewhere past both. Derek hadn't woken when we left. Mom stayed behind to watch him, insisting she knew how to protect the house. Your father taught me more than you think, she said, pressing something into my hand, a small brass key. If you ever come back, use this. Not the front door. Naomi broke the silence. Do you think Lorne's even still alive? He was the last person my father trusted, I said. If anyone knows what that thing is, it's him. We pulled off the highway just after 11 a.m. and followed a gravel road through the woods until GPS failed us completely. Finally, after another mile of dirt track, we found it. A weather-beaten cabin surrounded by solar panels, dead trees, and rusted surveillance gear. It looked more like a survivalist bunker than a home. I parked 50 feet away. Naomi placed a hand on my arm. "Don't say you're his son." "Not yet." I nodded. "We feel him out first." As we approached the cabin, the wind shifted, carrying with it a strange high-frequency whine, like static caught in your ears before a storm. I raised a hand to knock, but the door opened before I touched it. A man stood inside, maybe late 60s, but built like a soldier who still trained every day. Gray beard, military posture, holding a shotgun casually in one hand and a thermal scanner in the other. "You brought it," he said, voice hoarse. Not a question. A statement. Naomi froze. "You're Lorne." He didn't answer. Just looked at me. Not suspicious, resigned. Like he'd been waiting. He stepped back. "Inside. Now. Before they find you." We entered. The door sealed behind us with the sound of 3 separate locks engaging. The inside of the cabin was a cross between an armory and a mad scientist's lab. Circuit boards, old maps, radios, and surveillance monitors cycling through infrared feeds of woods, sky, and soil. Lorne sat. Stared. "You shouldn't have moved the cube." "You know what it is?" He sighed, rubbed his eyes. "It's a key. Not the kind you turn in a lock. The kind you place in a wound." I frowned. "What's it open?" Lorne didn't answer immediately. He stood and walked over to a wall safe, opened it, and returned with a file marked Project Threshold. "Your father and I opened the first gate in 1984, he said. "Not on purpose. We thought we were studying energy signatures from something atmospheric. What we found was a tear, not a door, a slice through our world." "To where?" He looked at me with eyes that had seen too much. "Not where. When?" Naomi leaned forward. "Time travel?" "No. Worse. A timeline adjacent to ours. Like veins in a leaf. They run beside us, but they bend, bleed, and twist. Some places are closer than others. Your house, for example." My blood went cold. "Why my house?" "Because your father used it as an anchor point. A fixed location. The gate stabilized there. The cube? It's what kept the rift from opening again. And now..." He looked at the toolbox. Then at me. "Now they're coming through." I opened the file. Sketches. Coordinates. Medical logs. Photos of the same creature I'd seen in my living room. Except these were dated 1985. "You knew about them all this time?" I asked. "We tried to contain it," Lorne said quietly. "Your father made the seal. He buried the truth. But the signal never stopped. They've been listening ever since." "And the resonance?" "Phase alignment," he said. "When enough energy builds between the layers, the timelines begin to match frequencies. Like a mirror sync. Once they're aligned for more than 66 seconds, the gate can permanently open." Naomi's voice cracked. "How close are we?" He didn't answer. Just pointed to one of the monitors. On it, our house. And above it, the sky. Ripping. The sky over our house was cracking. Lorne froze the video feed. Above the ridgeline, a thin, vertical gas shimmered across the clouds, like lightning held in pause. It pulsed at steady intervals, the air around it swirling in unnatural patterns, bending light like heat over asphalt. "That," Lorne said, "is the first sign." I stepped closer. "How long until the resonance completes?" "Hours. Maybe less." He turned, face stone hard. "You have to understand, once it locks, we don't close it. We can't. That place, whatever's on the other side, becomes part of ours. Isn't that what they want?" Naomi said, voice quiet. Lorne nodded. "They've always wanted access. But not in numbers. Just one. A harbinger." A chill ran up my spine. "What does it do?" Lorne looked me dead in the eyes. "It prepares." He let the word hang like a death sentence. Then he reached for the cube, still sealed in the toolbox. "I need to show you something." We followed him into a sub-basement beneath the cabin, lit only by flickering emergency bulbs. Every inch of wall space was covered in diagrams, photographs, and notes, some handwritten, some scrawled in what I hoped was red ink. He pointed to a section labeled November 3rd, 1986. "That's the day we lost the gate for 13 seconds. It flickered open in a controlled lab. We sealed it fast. But something still got through. Just one." The photo beneath the date was grainy and distorted. A figure. Tall. Humanoid. Eyes like voids. I didn't need clearer resolution. I'd seen it. In the weeks that followed, Lorne continued, "Your father changed. Nightmares. Memory gaps. Nosebleeds. He claimed he was being watched even in sealed rooms. I stared at the next image. It was my father, standing in front of our house. Except, not him. His eyes were wrong. Too wide. Too dark. And behind him, partially reflected in the window, was another figure. Identical in height. Slightly translucent. Watching him. They can't stay long, Lorne said. Not unless the gate is stable. So they attach themselves to someone, like parasites. Observing. Waiting. Preparing the host. Preparing. Naomi asked. For what? He glanced at me. For you. I stepped back. No. I wasn't even born yet. Exactly. You were the vessel. Your father made a pact, intentionally or not. When he died, the connection didn't break. It transferred. Everything inside me recoiled. You're saying I've been what? Marked? Not marked, Lorne said. Chosen. The cube in the toolbox gave off a low thrum, a heartbeat I could feel in my teeth. They know you're close to Lorne, Naomi whispered. As if in answer, the ground shook. Lorne went to the nearest monitor. A static warped image showed 3 figures approaching the cabin from the tree line. Their movements were wrong smooth, like video footage and fast forward. No weapons. No words. Just walking. Can they breach this place? I asked. Not unless the gate gives them more. Naomi grabbed my hand. We can't stay. Lorne pulled a flash drive from his safe. This has every log, every experiment, every containment protocol we ever developed. Take it. If I don't make it, get it to someone who can finish what Daniel started. He placed a trembling hand on my shoulder. Your father wasn't a bad man. He just wanted answers. He got them, I said. He just didn't like what they said. Lorne turned back to the cube, then to us. You have to return to the house. The seal was imperfect. It was never meant to last this long. But it can still be completed. Permanently. How? He hesitated. You have to finish the ritual he started. Naomi paled. What ritual? Lorne's eyes flicked between us. The one that requires a willing sacrifice. The cabin lights dimmed. On the monitor, one of the figures raised its head, looking directly into the camera. Then, everything went dark. The power died with a final click that echoed louder than it should have. Total darkness. Lorne didn't panic. He moved by memory, grabbing an oil lantern from the wall and igniting it with a flint striker. The glow cast long shadows across his face, revealing how truly exhausted he looked. We don't have time, he said. They've cut the perimeter power. That's phase 2. Phase 3 is breaching. I gripped Naomi's hand. Then tell us how to finish the ritual now. He set the lantern down on a thick book covered in dust and sealed with wax. Your father left this behind. I was never meant to open it. The seal bore a familiar symbol, a triangle embedded in a circle. Same as the cube. Lorne sliced the wax with a knife and opened to a marked page. He didn't read aloud. His eyes did all the reacting. What is it? Naomi asked. He looked at me, solemn. You were born on November 3rd, same day the gate pulsed for the first time. Your father marked that day as the anchor point. You mean? You were the price and the keeper. He wanted to seal it forever. But the resonance requires a balance. The gate doesn't close on commands. It closes on choice. My voice dropped. Whose? Yours, Lorne said. Naomi stared at the cube. But he died. The ritual was never completed. No, Lorne said. Because you were a child. It couldn't complete without a conscious offering. The idea began to form in my chest like a lead weight. All this time. My father hadn't just protected me. He'd been preparing me. What happens if I do it? I asked. The sacrifice? Lorne looked down. If the ritual is completed willingly, the anchor point folds in on itself. The gate becomes inert. Closed. Permanently. And if I don't? The resonance completes. The gate opens. Permanently. They cross. The word they no longer felt vague. They had faces now. Wrong faces. Voids behind smiles. I walked to the toolbox and opened it. The cube no longer pulsed faintly. It glowed. And from inside it came a new voice. The vessel returns. The circle opens. Lorne stepped back. Don't answer it. That's part of the call. But I was already hearing more. Images in my mind, futures not yet written. Naomi standing alone in a house made of ash. My mother screaming in silence. A sky filled with shapes that didn't belong to this world. Except the merging. The price was paid in blood. The seal must be completed in will. Lorne shoved a canvas bag into my hands. Go. Now. Get back to the house. Bring the cube to the ritual room. You'll know what to do when you get there. What about you? Naomi asked. I'll hold them off as long as I can. Outside, I heard it. Footsteps. But not on gravel. Not on stairs. On air. As if something was walking sideways across the cabin's outer walls. Lorne opened a trapdoor beneath an old rug. Tunnel runs 50 yards into the forest. It'll take you to the Jeep I buried last year. Keys are in the bag. I turned back at the last second. Lorne, why are you helping me? He held the lantern up. And I saw it. A scar behind his left ear. A triangle. My gate never closed, he said. I just learned to lock the door. Then he slammed the trap shut. We crawled through dirt and silence. When we emerged under moonlight, I saw it, a Jeep half submerged in pine needles and moss. I pulled it free. We climbed in. As I twisted the ignition, the cube in the bag began to vibrate violently. I looked in the rearview mirror and saw a face standing in the trees behind us. My father's, but not. Smiling. Watching. Not blinking. We drove through the night in silence, headlights cutting through the black as the forest thinned into the rural sprawl of Ridge Hollow. My hands gripped the wheel so tightly my knuckles ached, but I barely noticed. Because I could still see it. That thing in the trees. Wearing my father's face. Naomi sat beside me, the cube in her lap. It had stopped glowing, but the silence was worse. It felt like a heartbeat had gone missing. And I could feel it listening. Every mile closer to the house, the air changed. More static. Heavier. The trees bowed inward like they were mourning something inevitable. The gate was waking. Naomi checked the clock. It's almost 4 a.m. I nodded. Dawn is the alignment point. How do you know? I don't. I just do. We reached the crest of the hill, where our house sat quietly under a thin veil of early morning mist. But the sky above it was wrong. A long, jagged tear had opened across the horizon, like reality had cracked at the seam. From it came no light, no sound, just the impression of movement, just beyond perception. Naomi exhaled, shaking. It's bleeding into us. I drove off-road, avoiding the front drive. The ritual key my mother had given me glinted in the glove box, untouched until now. I took it and felt something burn into my palm. We parked behind the shed and crept toward the back entrance. The house was still. No lights. No signs of life. Except for the hum under our feet. Naomi stopped. Did you feel that? I knelt and touched the ground. The earth vibrated. Like a living thing. I unlocked the basement door with the brass key. A long, low click echoed into the dark. The air changed. Cooler. Still. Inside, the hallway stretched longer than I remembered. The walls looked warped, like the house itself was trying to contain something pushing outward. We passed the kitchen. Every drawer hung open. Dishes shattered across the floor. Not from struggle, from resonance. The cube in Naomi's arms started humming again, low and urgent. At the end of the hall, we found the door. The ritual room. I had never seen it. But somehow, I knew it was there. The door opened before I touched it. The room inside was circular, paneled in old wood, floor carved with concentric rings and symbols that pulsed faintly beneath the surface. Candles, though unlit, flickered in response to our breath. In the center was an indentation, exactly cube-sized. Naomi stepped forward, hesitant. Are you sure? No, I said. But we don't have another move. I placed the cube into the socket. It locked into place with a mechanical shutter that didn't belong in a room this old. Then the walls began to glow. Symbol by symbol, a ripple of light moved through the carvings, like they were circuits awakening. The cube began to turn, slowly, aligning with the rings in the floor. And then, a scream. From upstairs. Naomi flinched. Your mom. No, I said. Not anymore. Another scream, this one lower. Male. Derek. I stepped back toward the hall, but Naomi grabbed my arm. If you break the ritual now, it resets, she whispered. You heard Lorne. The cube's voice returned. Sacrifice. Vessel. Gate. The floor lit up under me. My vision blurred. I saw possibilities. In one, Naomi running alone through an endless hallway. In another, myself, standing before a cracked sky, my skin changing, shimmering like the entity I'd seen. In a third, my father, kneeling before the cube, knife in hand, shaking, but determined. Then I understood. This room remembers, I said. I looked at Naomi. She understood, and her voice broke as she said it. He didn't die in a crash, did he? I shook my head. He completed the first ritual, but it was incomplete. I was too young. It needed someone else. Another scream, this one not human. I reached for the dagger embedded in the floor. It was old, etched in the same symbols. But as I lifted it, Naomi took it from me. Don't, I said. Tears streamed down her cheeks. It wants you to die? That completes their ritual, not yours. The cube spun faster. The room filled with voices, dozens, hundreds, all speaking backwards. One blood to bind, one will to burn. Naomi stood over the cube. If this is about choice, she said, then I choose you. And she stabbed the floor. Not me, not herself, severing the final circle in the design. The cube screamed. So did the sky. The tear above the house cracked violently, then began to collapse. Light, not from the sun, not from this world, poured downward like a final judgment. And the cube exploded, not in force, in absence. Everything went black.